Hey guys,
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
hope y'all are doing great. We're gonna get started here. So a lot of folks throughout the past couple weeks have asked me like what it looks like to write a really good offer.
Recording in progress.
And so I thought we would just take some time, especially with as many new agents as we have, to discuss like what goes into making a really good offer. Because I'll be honest, the answer to that question, like what is a really good offer, it is completely unique to the situation. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is also like the market. What are we seeing right now? And the intentionality behind that conversation is just so that you can all leave here kind of feeling like you know what everyone else is seeing from a market standpoint. And this market is pretty similar no matter where you're at right now in the Midwest. So it does apply to Kentucky just as much as it does to Columbus. But so I want to kind of start there as soon as we get through a little bit logistical work. So we had the opportunity yesterday up here in Columbus to start Bold. And I got to see a lot of our new agents there. So excited to see you guys pursuing additional knowledge. Hopefully you took some key things away. Make sure that if you're attending that, you're taking it to heart and you're really trying to implement these things into your systems and your daily schedules. Aside from that, just want to ask a rhetorical question to us all. And it doesn't matter if you've been licensed for 5 years like myself, or if you've been licensed for 1 week. That question that I want to ask everyone, and you don't have to give an answer, is, do you have a business plan? Do you have a business plan? And when you ask yourself that question, it means like literally, do I have a plan for what I want 2023 to look like from a business perspective? And then how am I planning on achieving those goals? And those are some things that we can talk about as we connect, maybe one-on-one or here in the next couple of weeks. But I really wanted to plant the seed for you all because we're through the first quarter already. And some of us had goals to close a home a month. And maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we're not averaging that, or maybe we're ahead of schedule. I don't know. But end of the day, like my job is to get you guys to your goals. And we want to make sure that we're taking the appropriate measures to get there. So do you have a business plan? A business plan doesn't have to be something spectacular and pages and pages and slides long. It can be as simple as a one-pager that says, here's the goal. Here's how I'm going to get there. I want to challenge us all to think through that and answer that question honestly. And if we need help with those, then let's talk offline. But let's jump into the content for this week. And that is, what is the market like? So I want to hear from y'all out there. What are you seeing in the market?
It's pretty competitive. Still have to go above asking and no contingencies, and it's still a pretty tough seller's market.
Yep. What is so we've talked about this in the past, just so that I'm not testing anybody here, but what constitutes a seller's market? Kevin, what constitutes a seller's market? You're on here every week. I'm sure you probably know.
Inventory that's less than 4 months.
Bingo. Good job, man. Good job. So inventory that's less than 4 months. So if we didn't receive another listing, if it took any less than 4 months to sell through every home, then it's a seller's market. I'm going to jump into and iPhone. I don't know who iPhone is, but they say seller's market in the chat. Who is that?
Who is that?
Oh, that's me, Sally. I don't know why it just says iPhone.
Cool. You are correct. So real quickly, we're going to jump into, again, I want to continue to do this as much as possible because I want y'all to know like how to quickly observe whether or not it's a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market. Heads up, it's going to be a seller's market for a long time. We go to quick search. We're looking at active homes. Y'all can see my screen, hopefully.
Yes, Josh.
Thank you. Okay, active homes and coming soon homes. So we're at 1993. That was a good year. I'm sure something great happened then. And then we change it up to close within the last 7 days. So this is pretty simple. 1993 divided by 556. That's the number of closed homes in the last week. And we get a number 3.58. So that means there's 3.58 weeks of inventory, meaning if not one more listing hit the market for the next 3.58 weeks, we would have 0 listings available at the end of that time. All right, so we know now that it's a seller's market. Now, what does that tell you about offer strategy? Because again, we're getting back to, okay, if the market is this, then what does that mean for me and my buyers? And what does that mean for me and my sellers? What is the message I convey to those individuals in whichever camp you are in to be an educator, but also to not waste anyone's time, especially on the buy side? Brad, you probably have the most experience here in this regard. So what's like the message you tell your buyers when, let's say you first meet a buyer? How do you go about that conversation, like explaining the market to them?
Well, the biggest thing I stress is that that it is competitive and we have to act fast first. So we have to act in a timely manner. If we see something we like, we have to jump right on it, get an offer in as soon as possible if it is something we like. And then really stress that we want to, if to our ability, limit the amount of contingencies. And if it's something we really love, then you're probably going to have, we know there's going to be an offer below asking and at asking, at list price and below list price. So put those two, I mean, basically throw those out the window, I guess. If it's something we really love, we're going to have to be aggressive.
Yeah, that's dead on. That's a great way to put it. And that's what our role is, folks, especially those of you who are brand new or newer. Odds are we're going to be working more predominantly with buyers. So our objective and our goal is to educate them so that when the time comes for them to actually pull the trigger and place an offer, that we're not just wasting bullets, that we are point accurate, and that we understand and we're all on the same page, buyers and agent alike, on what it's going to require to win this offer situation. What about on the sale side? Let's see here. Who all's on? Anybody that's had a listing in the recent past here? Lauren, you've had a listing relatively recently. How would you have that conversation with a seller? So we just talked about buyers and how we need to be aggressive and we need to pull all of our punches. But on the sales side, Lauren, how would you approach that conversation about the market and what a seller could expect? Can you hear me, Lauren? Okay. Well, I will be Lauren right now. The conversation you're gonna have with a seller is that, hey, it's an intense seller's market. What that means for you is we can expect, if we price this home appropriately, we can expect an increase in traffic, depending on our location, neighborhood specific, we can expect more traffic, hopefully multiple offers. When we get multiple offers, hopefully the pot gets sweetened in our favor, because again, it's a seller's market. Therefore, the sellers typically have the advantage when negotiations occur. And in theory, we should be receiving some really good, strong numbers. Now,
Hey, Josh,
it's dependent upon your location. Yeah,
so one quick question. Whenever you are the seller agent, but you also are the buyer agent, how do you go about it when you get multiple offer and you are representing, let's say, both of the buyers as well as the seller?
that's really challenging. And that is a scenario in which I don't recommend you being a dual agent. I know we all want to be a dual agent. So a dual agent, to Tudis's point, is when you're representing both sides of the equation. And if you're representing the seller and you're representing a buyer, if it's just those two parties, then it's not actually too hard. The problem is you still have to you have to kind of take yourself out of the, I'm going to give you a bunch of tips about how to react to this. You can't be that middle person. You kind of have to be, gloves are off, I'm only going to give you the facts. But when you enter into a multiple offer situation, there's no possible way that you can be the best fiduciary for both sides. That's one of those situations where I would recommend referring out the buyer, because you know the seller's going to make you money, right? The buyer, though, that's going to be sticky if you're in a multiple offer situation. But in theory, you can still represent both parties. You just have to be very careful about what information you tell both parties, because you are kind of like the neutral third party. You're just presenting facts.
Right.
And
it was
you
pretty
have to get
solid.
approval from both sides, right? You have to get approval from both sides to represent both sides. And that might be tough to pull as well.
All right, good, thank you.
Josh.
Back to what I was talking about before, yes.
Hey, Josh, it's Bill. Whenever we're talking, on, aggressive offers, et cetera, from a buyer side, maybe partially on a seller as well, is there like a range where, you can, like an aggressive offer is X%, above list? And does that vary, like a house that's 80,000 versus one that's, 500? Like, is there a range, or is it kind of just, it depends on the moment and the house itself?
It absolutely depends. I use the term snowflake a lot because no two snowflakes are alike, and no two offer situations, no two transactions are ever alike. And we're definitely going to hit that, Bill. We're going to hit kind of strategies that we can implement in different price ranges. So let's put a tab on the question and we'll definitely hit it. Thank you for asking
Perfect.
it.
Thanks.
But real quickly, I wanted to talk about different areas, geography, because real estate is, this term that I like to use is called hyper local. I probably stole it from somebody my first year, but it makes me sound smarter when I say it. Real estate is hyper local, meaning the road that your home is on matters. The portion of the street that your home is on, it matters. Because if I live on a street, one side has beautiful ponds and stuff behind it, and one side has power lines in the backyard, which side's going to be more valuable, you think? In theory, it's going to probably be the one with the picturesque setting in the backdrop. So real estate is hyper local, meaning that the exact pinpoint location that you're in really matters. And it's going to dictate price and demand. We as real estate professionals understand that. So no matter where you're working, you can easily pull up like Google Maps, do an aerial overview of what the land, the topography, the geography actually looks like. You can do a satellite view to see if there are anything crazy you should know before you drive, maybe an hour to go show this house. If there's power lines, then maybe your buyer's not even interested in the home, so you can save yourself that hour trip, right? But it's really important and critical to understand. And then we get into the cities within the locality. What I mean by that is, if y'all know anything about, we're gonna use Columbus as an example. Columbus is a large city comprised of a lot of smaller little towns, right? So we've got, and the same can be said for Lexington or Louisville as well, right? We've got smaller pockets within. And so the value in Upper Arlington, which is really close to the city and kind of a hoity-toity area, very white collar area, the value of a home there in relation to the value of a home in, let's say, Linden. Linden is just north of town, and it is an up and coming area, meaning there's a lot of investor dollars going there because homes are super cheap because it's not the safest area. So if I take two equal homes, meaning 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, which home's going to be worth more? It's totally dependent on the area, right? So we understand that, I hope. And so if you have buyers looking in specific areas as a real estate professional, you can do all your research on this screen that I'm sharing right now, the MLS. You can just, under quick search, you can map or highlight certain parts of town to see how many homes are active in those areas versus how many homes are active in other areas. What are the price ranges looking like? Is it going to be harder to buy in this area versus this area? I'm gonna give you a true life story here. I got a wonderful referral on Friday evening from a really good friend of mine. She was at daycare and she overheard another parent asking about realtors. And she likes me, so she's a big fan, and she gave them my card. Well, they reached out to me. Awesome. Monday, I have a call with them, and they say, well, we're really interested in homes in Hilliard all the way up to Delaware. And then they gave me the price point. The price point was up to $350,000. Let me give you folks in Kentucky can probably relate to the cities here. So Hilliard is a highly desirable school district and area, very much a melting pot, very diverse, very tough to get into. Days on market is typically 2 to 3, meaning it's as soon as it's listed, it's gone. All the way up to Delaware. Delaware is completely different. Pretty white. Schools are okay, much more affordable, a little easier to get into compared to Hilliard. So my conversation with them was just that. Like, I'm not speaking about school districts. Remember, guys, we can't talk specifics on schools nor safety. We can guide our buyers to websites that can give them information on those things. But I want to repeat, we don't talk about school districts and we don't talk about safety, because it's all, we don't want to be accused of steering, right? But when you're having these conversations with folks, you got to be pretty blunt with them. You got to establish expectations so that they're not getting disappointed. So what happens? Of course, a home pops up in Hilliard, coming soon. Coming soon simply means you can't show the home yet, but come on this one, it's going to be available to see on Friday. So, okay, I'm planting the seed with these guys to say, hey, in this price range, it's going to be really challenging. And so we're going to have to do some things that are unique to be aggressive. To Brad's point, we want to be aggressive. We want to try and dominate the conversation to win this house. So one of those solutions was to write a curb offer. If at any point you guys have questions about what I'm talking about, please stop me, okay? A curb offer is simply an offer on a home where you have not had a chance to walk through it yet. You're literally offering as if you're writing it from the curb, because you're not allowed to get into it yet. Now, sometimes you'll see investment properties that have tenants and stuff, and the listings will say curb offers only. That's what that's telling you. It's that you're not going to see the home before you get an accepted offer. So you're going to have to go based off the pictures, the auditor's website, any previous history that you know about the home. But in this situation, we decided, hey, what's it going to hurt? We know it's going to be a challenge in this price point, so let's write a curb offer. So I do that. I write the curb offer, and the agent tells me, hey, thanks so much for the offer. We already have 60 showings for Friday lined up. 60 showings on one house. And so the agent kindly said, I appreciate the offer. We will likely go to showings and see what it brings. Now, the message, though, that I want to convey is that as my client's fiduciary, we did everything possible that we could. We wrote a really strong offer with appraisal gap coverage, and we'll talk about that in a moment, with no inspection contingencies, et cetera. And it still might not be enough. And this is where it's important to plant the seed. You're sometimes a guidance counselor, guys. A psychologist sometimes, talking people off the ledge. An educator, a teacher, a principal between two parties. You wear a lot of hats as a good realtor. But planting the seed on the front end of things to say, hey, okay, this is a long shot, but here's what I think we should do. They trusted me every step of the way. And because I told them ahead of time, this might not work at all, but let's give it a go. I feel like I built trust with these people to the point where they're like, we know we're probably not going to get this now, but thanks, Josh. This was a great idea to try. Okay. So understand what you're up against in this market right now. And Joe, I think I saw you're on. Joe, feel free to chime in here if you got any additional insight, but the price range when I first started in real estate that was really tough to get started in, like if you were a buyer and you were pre-approved up to $300,000, this was 5 years ago. Anything 300,000 and below was really tough to find a house because there was so many other first-time home buyers and investors looking to purchase within that price range. But if you were 350 or higher, it wasn't all that challenging. It was pretty simple. There wasn't as much traffic. And when I say traffic, I mean as many competitors out there for the same home, meaning there's fewer multiple offer scenarios. Well, flash forward 5 years, and we're up to like in Central Ohio, and Kevin, I don't know how it is down there. Tutis, I don't know how it is in on there, but 500K and under seems to be like challenging. So my message to these individuals that we're helping to buy within those price ranges is, guys, we're going to have to exercise patience. And then my message to everyone, and this goes over really well, and you can steal shamelessly. My message to every buyer that I ever work with and we ever write an offer on is, I always tell all my buyers this: if it's meant to be, it will be. And if it's not, no problem. We'll continue to look and I'll be there every step of the way. I don't know what it does psychologically, but it eases people's minds to be like, you know what, the universe or God or whatever you believe in, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. And then when they don't get the house, they remember you told them that, and then it's on to the next one. Any questions, comments on either geography or like approach to educating our buyers just at a high level on what they can expect jumping into the process? Okay. If not, let's get into Bill's question. And that is, okay, let's say in this scenario, I wanted to write an offer on that home in Hilliard that has 60 plus showings in one day. Let's brainstorm right here. I'm going to put them in the chat. I want to brainstorm some different things that come to mind that we should consider doing when writing a potential offer on a home that's getting 60 showings. Whatever's on your mind, say it.
Waive inspection.
Waive inspection, yes.
Ask the listing agent what a winning offer looks like.
Waive remedy.
Waive remedy. Okay. And as I'm writing these down, we're going to come back and talk about what each one means. Cool. Keep them coming.
Appraisal gap. Or no appraisal.
Yep.
Ideal closing and possession.
Ideal closing and possession. Absolutely.
Earnest
What
money.
else? Earnest money. These are great. Keep them coming. Anything else? D says, ask the seller's agent what the seller's motivation are. Yeah, that's a good idea. Ansi says, offer more than asking price. Yeah, that's going to be a must for sure. Offer price is, let's be honest, it's probably the most important thing to most sellers, not to all sellers. The terms that you guys are describing here are sometimes of equal importance. I wrote down escalation clause. We'll talk about that because some of you might not know what that is or how it works.
I've heard of people throwing in extra stuff, especially in the crazy season last year. I heard of people offering to pay for the seller's move, like the moving costs.
Yep. Or paying closing costs for the seller, which is reverse to what we've historically seen. I'm not going to recommend this, guys, but because we're working so darn hard, but I've seen it happen. So I want to throw it out there that you can do this. Waive a portion of your commission. Raquel says little or no contingencies. Absolutely. What about improving your loan type? We'll talk about that in a moment. In the contract, guys, there's only so many things that you can actually edit. So as we think through those things, like what about home warranties? Would it be smart to ask the seller for a home warranty when I know they're going to get a lot of other offers? Nope. Sally says, what % should we typically ask for commission? Just typical. So we're not allowed to set commissions. So I can't really answer that other than to say that the average commission that most agents get on the buy side is normally 3-ish%. In the listing agent should dictate what the compensation will be. It should be at the very bottom of the listing on the MLS. If you have questions, I can show you. Actually, I'll just pull one up here because this is important because we get paid off this stuff, right? Let's go to the hot sheet real quick and see a new listing. All right, let's go to Middlehurst Drive in Columbus. Hold on one second. I go to detail. This is what the MLS listing looks like. And in Kentucky, it's going to be somewhat similar. We scroll all the way to the bottom and we see that they will be compensating the buyer agent 3%. Let's go to Laurelwood Drive, scroll to the bottom, $3. I'm going to assume it's 3% and the agent just messed up. But in that situation, always confirm. Don't do a crap ton of work and drive this house for $3. Okay. This one down here is 3%.
Wait, you telling me that they could get away with that $3 there?
That's what it says on the listing. I'm always going to confirm. If it ever says that, I'm confirming. Okay, so now you know how to find out how much you're getting compensated. Okay, we've got a great list here. Let's jump into each of these lines, and some of these are going to be quick. When offering, so I want to start by the biggest thing, purchase price. when you are off, and I'm going to back up one more time. The very first thing that we should do when we're considering placing an offer on a home, what is it? Can somebody tell me? Very first thing. I'll wait. Who should we contact when we
Call
want
the
to?
agent.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for participating. Yeah, why do we call the agent? Because they have all the information. They have all the answers. They have it at their disposal. And if we're really good at our jobs, we can sometimes weasel some of that information out of them. What would having more information do for us and our clients? That's simple. It gives us more of an open book test to how to write the best offer. So going back to Sam's comment, if they're getting 60 plus showings, then my conversation with the agent is going to be very quick. And it's going to say, hey, I know I was at the showing today and we were getting devoured by other people. I know you're getting other offers. Mute, please. But what would the perfect offer look like? What would a winning offer look like? Like, what would it require us to do to take this off the market like now? If your buyers can afford to do so. A lot of buyers can't afford to go crazy. But at least give yourself a fighting chance to have all the cards on the table. Sometimes the agents will point blank tell you, well, here's where we're at on purchase price, and here's where we're at on terms. If you can beat that stuff, then we'll go with your offer. Sometimes they play it very close to the vest and say, my client's not allowing me to disclose any information. Which is honestly not the best move. If you're their true fiduciary, you want to increase their terms. But that's just my thought. All right, so the
Can I
first
add
conversation-
something?
Yes, please.
And like, for example, something that happened to me today, I always call before even showing the property because, this house today went on the market this morning and he said he wanted to see it tonight. So I called her before even showing it. And she said that just today she has 3 offers already and that one of them is 30K over asking and that they're going to accept it. So she said they're most likely going to accept it. I already know my client can't afford 30K over asking, so I didn't even waste my time scheduling it. So
That's a great call out. Time is money too, right? And you just saved yourself a boatload of it. So call the other agent. Moral of the story. Okay, so talking now about Bill's question about price. All right, so I go show, this is just an example. You can see my screen here. I go show 2295 Laurelwood Drive. It's priced at 130. We're going to round to 137. Okay, now this thing has been on the market for 2 days. What can I automatically just assume from that information? If you don't know, guess. What can I assume that since it's a new listing only on the market 2 days and maybe my clients are interested, what should I assume even before I call the other agent about price?
they're probably not willing to budge because it just went on market.
Bingo. Bingo. They have all the leverage right now. Now, these are all going to be new listings because this is the hot sheet. What if this same home, Laurelwood, lists days on market? You guys see this right here, days on market. This is what we need to be aware of. What if it said 150 days on market? Then what does the pricing strategy potentially look like?
You can offer less.
We can negotiate on the pricing.
Yeah, in theory, we should have a little bit more leverage than the seller does because the market has spoken and they are either clearly overpriced or there's something majorly wrong with the home. In our market these days, the average days on market total for the whole market is like less than 2 weeks, I want to say. So let's be wise. If it's been on the market longer than 2 weeks, leverage comes our way as buyers. If it's been less than, you're gonna have a hard time getting a below offer price accepted. In this situation, let's say, for example, it's priced at 137. It's been on the market 2 days. We call the agent because we've just shown the property. My guys love it. We say, hey, my clients have interest in your listing on Laurelwood. I never promise an offer's coming. Because if I promise that, if I say, hey, we're going to offer on this property and we don't, hate to say it, but we give realtors a bad name. I like to tell my clients that 99% of the time, I can believe what another agent tells me. Don't be that person who goes promising the world and then doesn't follow through with it. So instead of just saying, we're going to bring an offer, just say, my clients are considering an offer, but we'd like to know first, what would a perfect offer look like, or what would a winning offer look like in your client's eyes? And Joe mentioned this. Optimal closing and possession days. This is the information that you're going to learn from an agent, the listing agent. Why is that important? Because if I'm writing a winning offer, odds are I'm going to hit them where they want to be in terms of closing and possession. So real quickly, what do I mean by closing? I simply mean when we go to sign the documents, both sides have agreed to terms, and we go sign the documents to put the home in our name. We don't always get the keys then, because then we move on to possession. Possession is when you get the keys and the property is all yours. The previous owner has moved out and it's yours for the taking. That's called possession. So in theory, if this person at Laurelwood, the agent said, well, first I'll tell you they'd like to close, and sometimes they'll write this information. This one didn't, but sometimes they'll write this information, the agent to agent remarks, and then you won't necessarily have to ask that question. You can just confirm. But sometimes they'll say, well, they'd like a 30-day close and they'd like at least 2 weeks of possession afterwards. Okay, well then let's write the contract that way, as long as we can convince our clients to do so. Again, though, you're educating your clients on what that means for them, because this is what we're here for. We are educators, we are interpreters of what this all means, because a lot of it is going to sound really weird and new for a lot of buyers.
Yeah, we had an agent. Can I jump in real quick, Josh?
Please.
Yeah, we had an agent a couple days ago that there was multiple offers on a property, and they were not the highest price, but we could close quickly, and we allowed them to stay in the home for an additional 30 days possession at no rent. And the people were excited about that because they didn't need to make a double move. And even though the other money was a little bit higher, they felt the convenience factor of closing, getting their money quicker, and then be able to hang out in the house for a longer period of time was more beneficial than closing a little bit later and putting a little bit more money in their pocket. So you really never know what a seller is thinking. So kudos to you for thinking, get as much information as you can from the other agent before you even write on the offer. Because sometimes you can even get an idea through conversation what the other pricing is on the other offers from the listing agent. Sometimes they get diarrhea of the mouth and start telling you everything. And that's the best thing, because then you can share all that information with your buyer.
Thank you, Joe, for that information. That's a good call. And to that point, what I've said to y'all in the past is I normally ask the question about what would make a good offer, or something like what are the sellers looking for in a good offer? And then I intentionally shut up. I don't say another word until it gets really awkward. And the reason I do that is because, to Joe's point, sometimes they'll get diarrhea of the mouth and they'll overshare. What does that mean for you? That means more cards on the table. But when you make things awkward, silent, our human tendency is to fill that gap. Like you'll notice I'll ask you guys a question and nobody responds for 3 minutes and I just sit here awkwardly, right? It gets awkward. So you want to fill that gap. And so the seller's agent is just the same. They'll overshare. Okay, so in this situation, here's the scenario. To Bill's point, what does a pricing strategy look like in this situation? So it's priced at 137. I call the agent, they give me the scoop. They say, yeah, we actually have 2 other offers. They're good offers. That's all I can tell you. Okay, well, thank you so much for the conversation, and we'll be in touch. It's a little harder when they don't give you any information. But now I know they've got 2 offers. My strategy with my clients typically go like this. I say, hey, Jim and Sally, typically what happens when the first offer comes in, it's normally at least at asking price. If the second offer comes in, then they know that they're probably not going to win at asking price. So they come in above asking price. Because there's 2 other offers, my advice to you is to think of what you're willing to spend on this home and put a cap on it. Meaning, what is the ceiling? You're not willing to go $1 higher than this number. Because we might as well throw all of our cards on the table here and give them our highest and best offer. Because odds are, if we just came in 5K over asking price, we're probably not going to win this one. In my experience, Bill, to answer your question, I won't be shocked. And I'm normally pretty accurate at this. And Joe, maybe you got some tricks, but most people offer round numbers. So 150 is the next closest like big round number that seems like a reasonable purchase price. So 150, maybe you go 151 to try to go above anybody who thought the same. Now, if there's 10 offers, then just rip the Band-Aid and say, we're going to the ceiling. So give me your ceiling. To the point where if it went for $1 higher and you didn't get it, you wouldn't be crying over it. So if their ceiling is, let's say 160, and there's 10 other offers, you're probably up against cash. In this price range, you're probably up against a cash offer or conventional offers. If you don't have a cash or conventional, you have to put it all out there anyways. So this same, let's go to a more expensive house now. Okay. Here's real world situation stuff. Okay. I don't know anything about this house, but 400, let's put in the same scenario. We've got multiple offers. It's priced at $400,000. It's been on the market 1 day. Agent to agent. Here you go. Always read the comments, guys. They'll tell you. Agent to agent says, in the event of multiple offers, offers are to be submitted by, what is that, Sunday? Sunday at 8 p.m. And please leave open until 5 p.m. on Monday. Seller is to review offers on 4/10 after Easter. Seller reserves the right to accept offer at any point. That's important information there. Don't let me tell you how to do y'all's jobs, but I'm not a fan of paying attention to the rules if I have a super strong offer. What I mean by that is, okay, if my buyers are willing to go to 450, I'll almost guarantee if this one's in Worthington with Worthington schools, bet y'all $10 to sell for 450 or higher, as long as it's not falling, as long as the foundation's not crumbling. So my strategy would be, okay, we're going to offer 450 today with really great terms, and we're going to only hold this open until tomorrow. We're going to challenge them when they said, seller reserves the right to accept any offer at any point. What's the worst that could happen? They say, thanks for the offer, but we're not going to review until Sunday. And so then what happens? You can just extend until Sunday, Monday, follow the rules then. You're a fiduciary for your client. to heck with what they're saying about their client's preferences. I'm trying to win this house. So your guidelines and rules, I'm going to try and work around those. I'm going to try and shoehorn myself and in my clients into this house. Okay, but to answer your question, Bill, about price, the higher the price point of the home, the more above list price you're likely going to have to go to win it in a multiple offer situation. Is there a hard and fast number? I used to use 5%, but that doesn't seem to be one shoe fits all. If you come into a situation where you're not quite sure, shoot me a note. I'll help you out, as long as we're not offering the same home.
Yeah. That's another thing. I'll just jump in. What I had luck with is if there's a number of offers, the first thing you want to do is be able to get into a conversation, hopefully voice through the phone call, but if not a text with the agent that has it listed, because if they get a bunch of offers, there's usually one or two that are going to rise to the top versus the other ones, as far as terms, conditions, and price. One thing that, and if my offer is not going to be that strong price wise, and I know I'm going to be close or I might be a little bit short, what I've done in the past is, depending on the price point and how much money you're going to put down, I've increased the earnest money a stupid amount. Like if it's on 150,000 and someone's putting $10,000 down, you could put in the body of the contract terms and conditions that earnest money to be $10,000, but do it after the home inspection. And my reasoning for that is that if you put that in the body of the contract, you're not paying more for the house, but that's a term and condition that someone's going to go, whoa, what did they put $10,000 down? I mean, you're not spending any more for it. You're not going to put that earnest money down till after the inspection. But what it does sometimes, it gets you in conversation with the listing agent versus sometimes they're not even close, I'm not going to call. So sometimes it's good to try and get a conversation going with that listing agent. And if you're way short, well, then you're way short. But it's another way of trying to, to quote you, shoehorn your way in there to get a conversation going to see if it can work. I've done that 3 or 4 times and it's worked a couple times, and especially in higher price point. Because sellers, when they look at that, they see a huge earnest money and they think they're getting more money. Well, they're not. It's just a bigger number. And I would put that in the terms and conditions. Buyer to put down X amount of dollars as far as earnest money, just not in the body of the contract and the terms and conditions. That's just a thought.
Yeah, I like that. Anything you can do to get their attention, to grab their attention, because when you're seeing multiple offers come through, to Joe's point, you want to be the one that stands out. In my experience, I've had homes that have had 35 offers on them, guys. And to his point, he's 100% right. There's always one or two that really stand out. So if you can afford to stand out, some of this, guys, you just can't afford to do. So look in a lower price point. And this is good guidance for your folks. If they're shopping in the 300 to 350 range, but they can only afford 350, quit looking at homes that they can't buy. You're just teasing them, honestly. And that's good guidance. I normally say, I normally let my clients fail once on a offer, because typically new clients won't listen to you the first offer. They're gonna be like, oh, I'd like to offer at asking price. I'm like, well, I'll give you my guidance, but if that's really what you want to do, then we'll let you do it. And then after they failed once, I say, hey guys, I love Brad. Brad once said this to me. He said, I told my guys, do you want to offer or do you want to offer to win the house? Like, don't waste our time just offering to offer. Let's write an offer that's going to win. So real quickly, I want to run through these terms. If you have questions, holler at me, but we've got 11 minutes. What does waive inspection mean? It means just that. In this scenario, let's just say this $400,000 house has 10 offers. I will nearly guarantee that one of those offers is waiving the inspection completely. Now, are you supposed to convince your clients to do that? No. you're supposed to tell your clients that you encourage them to get all inspections. However, in a winning offer scenario, sometimes this may be a winning term. So what I'm doing is I'm covering my butt. And then there's also a hold harmless document that we can have them sign saying, hey, I told you should get inspections. Don't come back at me if in the future, because we waive inspection to win this house, anything fails on you. Waive inspection is a viable term. And honestly, when you're representing a seller, that is a really nice term to see, because you know that that's one less humongous hurdle that you've already cleared. I have
Josh.
accepted lesser offers on price because they would waive inspection. And that's just a stress point that we can avoid. Yes, what was the question?
Yes, I was just curious if you're in that situation where you want your client to waive inspection, when you show them the house, can you bring like an inspector with you? Kind
100%.
of look at it?
Yep, 100%. Now, you're not going to be doing a full inspection likely, because that's 3 hours typically, but you can have an inspector there with
Yeah.
you to hit it for highlights, right? Foundation, take a quick look at the roof. What does the electrical look like? What does the plumbing situation look like? Are there any general safety concerns? They're not going to be crawling into the attic likely during a showing. Or they're probably not going
Right.
to climb on the roof during a showing, but absolutely, I love that strategy in a scenario where you have to employ it. Also, you're going to get really good over time, guys, at identifying opportunities with homes. So if you're walking through a home with somebody and this is that situation where they're considering an offer and it's 10 offers and you see a massive crack in the foundation, hey guys, I think it's on to the next one. We're not going to be able to give them what they want, and I don't encourage you to. Or if you go into a home that's 2 years old and it looks like gold down there, you can say, hey guys, I think we could probably get away if you wanted to. Not that I encourage this, but in a winning offer, it might look like waiving a inspection. What does payment for something like that look like? You're going to have to coordinate that with an inspector that you know. I've seen inspectors do something like that for a quick $100, but only when the buyer is serious. Okay. Continuing down the list here, waive remedy. So I could get an inspection, but waive the remedy portion. So what happens in a traditional offer situation is I get an accepted contract, we get an inspector out there, and then we ask for fixes based off the inspection report. In this scenario, what you're doing is you're still getting inspection. You're not going to ask them to fix anything. You're purchasing the property in what we call as is status. Okay. So when you see as is, it means they don't want you to ask for anything to be fixed because they ain't going to fix it, supposedly. Sometimes I've seen people backtrack on that if the deal's good enough. That being said, the verbiage, the way it is written in the clauses, allows you and your client protection. Meaning if I get an inspection and it's not satisfactory, I can still terminate the contract. This is great peace of mind to any buyer who's waiving remedy. Appraisal gap. Let's just say in this scenario, the $400,000 house, we do go into contract for $450,000. It still has to appraise. If you're using a lender, that home has to appraise for $450,000, or the lender will not give $450,000. Let's say it appraises for $425,000. $450,000 minus $425,000 is a $25,000 gap. Therefore, if my clients can afford to, if they can afford to bridge that gap and say, hey, we'll give you whatever the difference is, then in this scenario, you're giving them $25,000 out of your own pocket to win this house. Some people protect themselves by putting a limit on how much they will bring for appraisal gap, say $10,000, $5,000. Anything you can do is going to be better than nothing to give the seller peace of mind. What we're really doing in our offer, in a multiple offer scenario, is trying to create as much peace of mind on the other side as possible. So appraisal is another hurdle. If we can bridge that gap for them, for the seller, they're more likely to accept our offer. No appraisal at all means that regardless of what it appraises for, if it only appraised for $400,000 and I'm in contract for $450,000, guess how much money I'm bringing to the table out of my own pocket? $50,000. Ooh, if they can afford to do it, I've seen it happen. I've had an agent call me and say, is your client serious? Like, they're going to completely waive the appraisal? And they were, and we did, and we won the house because it was an obscene gesture, right? We got their attention. Ideal closing and possession, that's just what we talked about earlier. If you can close earlier than they wish, more power to you. If your lender can say, hey, we can close you in 21 days, write that in, because no seller under the sun doesn't want to get out from under a mortgage quicker. No seller under the sun doesn't want their money quicker, right? So over exceed their expectations. Joe talked about earnest money. I've seen this. I've seen earnest money will be non-refundable. Meaning if there's 10 other offers, that gets my attention. If I got non-refundable earnest money, that means my buyer is so serious that they're willing to give away money if they walked away from the contract. Why is that important? Because typically, if you walk away from the contract, you're getting your earnest money back. So that's a bold statement. Offering more than asked, yes. Escalation clause, real quickly. An escalation clause is this scenario. Let's use this $400,000 house. My clients offer $400,000. However, if another offer beats ours, we will beat it by $1,000 up to $450,000. Meaning my floor is $400,000. I'm going to offer you $400K. But if somebody comes in at $410,000, I'm going to go up to $411,000. And then if somebody else comes up to $425,000, I'm going up to $426,000. If somebody goes to $450,000, I can't compete. I'm out. Because I said I would go as far as $450,000. My ceiling on my offer is $450,000. Is escalation clauses making sense?
Yeah.
If you go that route, there's additional terms and conditions. There's a sheet in our dot loop that you can use to clearly delineate what those numbers are. Paying closing costs. Me, the buyer, paying some seller closing costs, paying some of the commissions, anything to relieve the seller of financial burden will give you guys a good chance. Again, this all comes down to your buyer's ability to do all these things. Well, I'm just trying to give you tips and tricks in this crazy market. Paying moving costs. I mean, I don't know how much it costs to move somebody, probably a couple $1,000s. Joe, you guys ran an ad last year paying for somebody's moving costs. How much did that run? Joe might have jumped off. Well, let's anticipate a couple $1,000s. Waive a portion of your commission. That is a last ditch scenario thing. I only do that for like my family. Like, hey, I mean so much business. I need my brother to move here. I'll waive some of my commission. That's enticing. When I say loan type, I mean this: cash is king, then conventional. If you're in a 10 offer situation, you have FHA, sorry, you're playing from behind. And you need to educate your buyers on that case. If they can, this is the conversation I had with my guys. I said, hey, can you switch your loan type? Is that possible? Talk to your lender. And maybe sometimes it's just not. Just know that FHA is third on the list because it comes with additional hoops to jump through from a seller's perspective. And it's not the best loan type. We can talk more about that in the future. No home warranty, that's a given. A home warranty can cost as little as $400. Why ask for pennies on the dollar? The home warranty in a traditional market is paid for by the seller. I'm not going to ask for a home warranty unless this home has been on the market for 100 days and I have the leverage. If I have the leverage, there's no other offers, then go ahead and ask for the home warranty and go ahead and ask for the inspection. All these scenarios, guys, that I'm telling you are worst case scenarios where you're pulling out all the stops to try and win this home. If you have the leverage, they don't have any other offers, then let's go with a traditional offer. Let's go asking price. Let's get an inspection. Let's not waive remedy. Let's get the remedy. Okay. Does a listing agent show proof of the closest offer? In an escalation clause, when it is enforced, yes, that is part of the part of the verbiage on the escalation clause states that the listing agent has to show the triggering offer within 24 hours. I hope this was a beneficial call, guys. The market is hot right now. Interest rates are right around 6% right now is what I saw here today on the site that I looked at. So the market is heating back up to almost just as hot as it was. I think it's hotter than it was this time last year. So interest rates aren't necessarily mattering to buyers. They want homes. And this is good news for us. We have to go find the business and then we have to go win it with great offers. Hope this is good. If you have any other questions, holler. Love y'all. Ta-ta.